Today, we're jumping right into the science of your metabolism. We're going to uncover a real science-backed strategy to finally break that frustrating cycle of weight gain and fatigue for good.
Okay, let's just start with a number. And honestly, this one should stop you in your tracks. Get this, 93%, a staggering 93% of adults in the US have what's considered poor metabolic health. I mean, that's not some fringe issue, right? That is almost everyone. And look, before you even think, oh, that's just about being overweight, hold on. This next part is absolutely critical. Even if you're at a normal weight, that doesn't mean you get a pass. About a third of normal weight adults are metabolically unhealthy. So yeah, this goes way, way deeper than what the scale says.
So that really is the big question, isn't it? If it's not just about our weight, what on earth is really going on here? What's the hidden mechanism driving this whole crisis? Well, the answer is this powerful biological process that, I promise you, once you get it, it changes everything.
Okay, let's get into it. It all boils down to one thing, insulin resistance. And this is not just a term for people with diabetes. No, this is something that affects millions of us, and it's really the root cause of so many of our modern health problems. You know, this right here, this reframes the entire conversation. For decades, right? We've been told that struggling with weight is some kind of failure of willpower. But the science is telling us something completely different. It's not a failure of willpower, it's a failure of biology. It's not you, it's your insulin.
Okay, so how is it supposed to work? Well, in a healthy body, think of insulin as a key. You eat something, your blood sugar goes up, and your pancreas sends out these little insulin keys. They travel to your cells, they unlock the door, and let the sugar in for energy. It's simple, it's elegant, it's super efficient. But what happens with insulin resistance? Well, now imagine the lock on your cell door is getting all rusty. The key, the insulin, is still there. It's trying to work, but it has a really hard time turning that rusty lock, so the door doesn't open easily. And all that sugar, that glucose, it can't get in. It just gets stuck, building up in your bloodstream. And this is where it gets really bad. This is the vicious cycle. So your cells are resisting insulin, right? Your pancreas panics and thinks, I know, I'll just send out more keys, more insulin. But all that extra insulin floating around screams a different message to your body. Store this excess sugar as fat. And it's not just any fat. It's that really dangerous visceral fat, the stuff that wraps around your organs. And guess what that new fat does? It makes your cells even more resistant to insulin. And the whole horrible cycle just keeps spinning, getting worse and worse.
Okay, so how do we get off this merry-go-round? How do we break the cycle? Well, the first and honestly most powerful tool we have is food, what we eat. Let's dive into diet because it can either be the fuel that keeps this fire burning or the water that finally puts it out.
Just look at this gap. It's huge. The recommendation from the American Heart Association is pretty clear. About 6 teaspoons of added sugar a day for women, 9 for men. Okay? But what are we actually doing? The average US adult is downing 22 teaspoons every single day. We're just completely overloading the system, and that overload is one of the biggest drivers of insulin resistance. Now, here's something really fascinating. Our bodies are actually pretty smart. They're designed to handle some sugar. In fact, your gut is like your first line of defense. It can break down a type of sugar called fructose before it even has a chance to reach your liver. And this is a big but. There's a limit. Your gut can only handle so much at once. When you bombard it with too much sugar too fast, think of chugging a giant soda. It just gets overwhelmed. The system breaks down, and that extra sugar spills over, flooding your liver. Your liver looks at all this fructose and has no choice but to turn it into fat. And boom, that's a direct line to fatty liver and, you guessed it, even worse insulin resistance. So if sugar is the bad guy in this story, then fiber is absolutely the hero. And there are 2 kinds of fiber superheroes. You've got soluble fiber, which forms this kind of gel in your gut that slows everything down and helps control blood sugar. Then you've got insoluble fiber, which adds bulk and helps improve your body's sensitivity to insulin. The key is you need both of them on your team. So here's how fiber really fights back. It's like it's waging a war on multiple fronts. First, it makes you feel full, so you're less likely to overeat. Second, it slows down how fast sugar hits your bloodstream, which prevents those really damaging spikes. And third, this is so cool, it feeds the good bacteria in your gut. And those little guys produce something called short-chain fatty acids, or SCFAs, which actually help make your cells more sensitive to insulin. It's an all-out assault on the problem.
Okay, but diet. Diet is only half the battle. To really, truly break this cycle for good, we need to talk about your body's secret weapon. It's a part of your body you might not even think of as an organ, but it is absolutely critical for metabolic health. And that is your muscle.
I mean, this quote right here says it all. Your skeletal muscle is the biggest place your body has to put glucose. After you eat, that's where most of the sugar is supposed to go. It is the #1 destination. So having healthy, active muscle, it's not a nice to have. It is completely non-negotiable for good metabolic health.
Here's the best way to think about it. Your muscles are like a giant glucose sponge. They literally soak up sugar from your blood. So it's simple, right? The more muscle you have and the more active that muscle is, the bigger your sponge is. A bigger sponge can soak up way more sugar, which keeps your blood sugar stable and finally gives your poor, overworked pancreas a break. And this is why resistance training is such a game changer. It's like a metabolic cheat code. Get this. When you're working out, your muscles can pull sugar out of your blood without any insulin at all. It's a total biological hack. On top of that, it boosts your metabolism for up to 2 days after you finish. It builds you a bigger glucose sponge for the future, and it helps fight off the inflammation that's driving this whole mess. And listen, this is why this is so urgent. If you're not actively doing something to build or maintain muscle, you are losing 3 to 8% of it every single decade after you turn 30. You are literally losing your glucose sponge year after year, and that just puts your metabolic aging on the fast track. Okay, so we've talked about the problem, that vicious insulin cycle, and the two big solutions, fixing your diet and building your muscle. So now let's put it all together into a simple, sustainable plan for your long-term health. So here it is, your metabolic health toolkit. It's pretty straightforward. On the food side, slash that added sugar. Make fiber from real whole foods your best friend. And if you are going to have sugar, have it with a meal to slow things down and avoid that spillover. Then, for movement, aim for 2 or 3 resistance training sessions every week, shoot for a total weekly activity goal, and please, for the love of everything, find something you actually like to do. And that number, that 200 to 300 minutes of activity a week, that's not just pulled out of thin air. That's a really important number. It comes from the National Weight Control Registry, which studies people who have successfully lost weight and kept it off for years. This is the sweet spot. This is what it actually takes. And maybe the biggest takeaway here is this. It is not about killing yourself in the gym. It is not about intensity. It is all about consistency. It's the small things you can do regularly, week after week, that really add up. That's what rewires your metabolism. That's what builds real, lasting health. So, I want to leave you with one final thought, a question to really think about. For so long, the goal has always been lose weight. But what if we've been asking the wrong question? What if the real goal isn't to lose weight, but to build health? What if instead of trying to get smaller, we focused on getting stronger, on building a truly resilient, metabolically healthy body from the inside out? Because when you do that, a healthy weight just kind of becomes the happy side effect.